Hello, Sociology. Okay, so I wanted to make this video to go through the exam structure for paper 2, section A and B. Now, of course, section A is research methods, and this was the section where you had a few different teachers. So I wanted to make sure that we go through that section. You have completed a practice paper and you have been given feedback, and you should have acted upon that feedback. Therefore, you should be able to feel quite confident moving on to this second time doing it. Section B is understanding inequalities, which I taught you, and we've done loads of exam practice as we have gone on. So I'm just going to share my screen with you so you can see a PowerPoint that I will put online for you. So it looks like this: AS level sociology for component 2, research methods and understanding social inequalities. So remember, guys, this is for the AS paper, so it's just for the exam that you're going to be sitting, and then when you move on to A level, this exam paper, the marks will become higher, and the evaluation and analysis marks, your IA3, will become higher as well. So it will become more challenging when you do the second year paper on research methods and understanding social inequalities. Okay, but don't worry about that. That's, you know, next year, next summer, got a whole year. So guys, going over the AS level assessment objectives. So AO1 is to demonstrate knowledge and understanding of sociological theories, concepts and evidence, and sociological research methods. Your AO2 is to then apply that knowledge to a range of issues depending on what the question is. Then your AO3 is to analyse and evaluate the arguments that you have put forward. So you need to present arguments, make judgments and draw conclusions. So nothing new there, stuff that we've been doing all year. Okay, so the relationship between sociology assessment objectives and the components. So socialisation, culture and identity, the first one here in the box, is your paper 1, and that was section A, your introduction to sociology, with section B, the media. And as you can see, AO1, it's 45–50% knowledge, your application marks around 30–35%, and your evaluation is really, really low, 15–20%, and that's because it's really the introductory paper to this course. So the easier marks, just regurgitating subject knowledge, AO1, is worth 50% of your paper. Now that is the same for this paper, paper 2, researching and understanding social inequalities, 45–50%. Your application is slightly lower, 25–30%, and your analysis and evaluation is a slightly higher, 20–25%. So question paper for paper 2 is 1 hour and 30 minutes. So on Friday, when I will post, or Thursday, sorry, when I post the exam paper, make sure you set aside 1 hour and 30 minutes and do it to the time. That is really, really, really important that you're doing it to 1 hour 30. Now, if you have exam dispensation, as in you get extra time, that's absolutely fine. Give yourself extra time. Now, if on Thursday you find yourself completing it and then your alarm goes off on 1 hour 30, or, you know, set yourself a timer, put a little star next to your margin where you are, or if you're typing, just say, you know, this is where the timer has ended. And if you want to carry on, please do so. Yeah, but I need to see what you're working to as the time. Total mark is 75. So let's break down the paper into section A, section B. So section A, research methods and research and social inequalities. So you're going to have 4 questions. You need to answer all of them, and they will be based on the source material. There'll always be 1 data, so 1 quantitative, and then 1 qualitative source. Spend 5 minutes reading through those sources, guys, because all of your questions in section A will be related to that source. So you are going to be picking up your AO2, your application marks, to by reading that source. And I would highlight, I would annotate, I'd do whatever you need to do to make sure you really are immersed into that source. So whenever you get a question, you're relating whatever that subject knowledge is that's testing you on into that source. Section B only has 2 questions. That's for social inequalities, and again, you need to answer all of them. There is no source for section B. Okay, so here is an example of what the source could look like. Now, I think, yeah, this is the one that you actually did. This was the source on poverty. And you have done this one before Easter break. And then this is what the exam paper looks like. So questions 1 to 4 on research methods, and then 5 to 6 on section B. So questions which are marked with an asterisk will be assessed in terms of quality of extended response. So it could be the fact that you've actually put in really, really great subject knowledge, but the writing could be awful. It could have no flow, it could be incoherent, spelling, punctuation and grammar could be awful. That is all going to be taken into account, guys, yeah, because this is A-level. Second box says the quantitative and qualitative sources may be referred to in any of the section A questions. For example, here question 1 refers to quantitative source. It's possible that future question papers can differ and can actually go to the qualitative source. A single question will not refer to both sources, okay? That's really important to know and to be aware of. Questions 5 to 6 here happen to be based around gender. This doesn't mean all future section B questions will be all on the same theme, so they can switch between class and gender, class and gender. So I've now broken down each question as to what you should be doing. So let's look at question 1. So that's worth 4 marks, and that is 4 AO2 marks for your application. And in red, I've said it would be describe data or findings in the source. In blue, I've given you my suggestion on how to answer to get 4 marks. So pick evidence from the source, ensuring you try to make a comparison with another piece of information and statistic from the source. You need to do this twice. And then in the blue box, I put in short question 1. You need 2 short paragraphs comparing the evidence in each. Now, actually, if I bring up the exemplar, now I've sent this to you all, guys, when I emailed you back with your feedback. So you should all have a copy of this, but I will put it with this video as well, so you can kind of go in between 2 if needed. So I love these exemplars because you are given a low band sample answer. So as you can see, it's 1 short sentence, rubbish, 2 marks. To make it a high band sample answer, you need your 2 different findings comparing data. So you've got source A shows the hourly wage gap between part-time and full-time employees. For example, around 50 to 52% of part-time employees earn less than £8 an hour, whereas around 52 to 53%, blah, blah, blah. So that's the comparison, then you do it again. If you need to pause this video at any time, please make sure you do, and you want to take notes or whatever, feel free. Okay, question 2 is worth 9 marks. You get 6 for your knowledge, your AO1, and 3 for your application, your AO2. So using the source, explain why. Now, this question could be about any of the terms like operationalization, sampling, ethics, practical considerations. So number 1, define what the concept is. Always do that, guys. Define what it is. Tell me what it means. That is knowledge marks straight away. Number 2, you need to find 3 things to say about it that are positive. And I'm going to talk about pervert later on. You can use the pervert acronym here. So think about practicality. What's practical about this? What's ethical about this? What's reliable about this? What's valid about this? You need to really understand those core key terms because they are used to analyze the other research methods and concepts. So you need to do this 3 times, 3 positive things, and for each you need to link it back to the source. So question 2 in my blue box, 1 big paragraph with 3 key points linked to the source. So if we now look at the exemplar, we can see here, low band, little tiny answer. Higher band, 1 big paragraph with 3 key things. So it literally says operationalization is a process in which sociologists define concepts and ideas to measure them. For example, in the source, the researchers are investigating the concepts of poverty, disadvantage, and better off backgrounds. These terms can all be debated on how to define them and are therefore subjective. To stop any confusion over how the researchers carried out their measurement of the topic, they need to define their terms in a way that would be seen as quantifiable and therefore more objective. That is their number one, their first positive thing. They've gone straight from the source and then they've explained what was positive about the operationalization of poverty. Yeah, and then they do it 2 more times. 9 out of 9. Capiche? Question 3. 12 marks. 8 for knowledge, 4 for your AO2 application. So it'll always say using the source, explain why, and it will always be a method. It could be interviews, participant observation, content analysis is used in the research of, and then they'll link it back to the source to poverty. So this is worth 12 marks, therefore you spend 12 minutes on it, minute a mark again. Intro, define the method, and also state if it's primary or a secondary method. Again, it's picking up those knowledge marks. Again, think of 3 positive things to say, backing it up with the source, and then the last bit adds the theory. So really, it's exactly the same as question 2, which is 9 marks, but you get an additional 4. So with that, I would the extra things, talk about if it's primary or secondary, and then add the theory, whether or not an interpretivist or a positivist would use it. Now, some of you wrote about weaknesses of the whatever it was in this question. Don't do that. The question wants to explain why it is used. As soon as you start going, oh, well, this might be a better one, or, you know, that's quite weak, you're wasting your time. It is wrong. Do not do it. So, in short, question 3 in the blue blocks, 3 short paragraphs including theory and the source and whether or not it's primary or secondary. Okay, so let's have a look at the exemplar. Low band, you know, that's really, no, that's not enough information. You can just tell. This, paragraphing. So you've got your first paragraph, core meaning, secondary or primary, and then you've got your 3 key things, la-di-da, relating it back to the source, and then the theory right at the end, 12 out of 12. Now, guys, don't take all day about this. Don't, you know, go around a bush trying to, you know, explain certain things. No, keep it direct, keep it to the point. And you can only do that once you know your stuff. So revision is so important. I was actually marking a student's paper and I was just writing all over it like, what are you talking about? You clearly don't know this. You clearly don't know this. And at the end, they just put, I'm so sorry for my waffle myth. I had no idea what this was. Guys, do me a favour. If you haven't got a clue, just write on there straight away. I do not have any idea at all, and then go for it, because then, you know, I won't waste my time really trying to find you marks, because if you don't know it, then don't do it, essentially. You can't blag it. You really can't blag subject knowledge. You need to know it. You need to make sure that you are prepared by revising. Okay, next question. Question 4, 20 marks. Now, this is the pervert acronym. So, 20 marks, 6 knowledge, 6 application, 8 evaluations. You need to really make sure you're using your weaknesses and your strengths of whatever you've just put down of your argument. So in red, using the source and your wider sociological knowledge, explain and evaluate the use of a method for researching poverty in this case. So always intro, define the source. What does it mean? Then you need 7 paragraphs using pervert. So P stands for practical. Is it time consuming? How much funding are you going to get? Think about the characteristics of the researcher. Is it ethical? That's the E of pervert. So think about, you know, is anyone going to be harmed? Is there any deception? And what about confidentiality? Then the R is reliability. Now, reliability means how can you replicate this method, this research method? If you can't replicate it, so if, say, for example, I've created, I don't know, a research project. There's been a crash. I'm going to do a participant observation of 30-year-old women and their attitudes to motherhood. I'd be able to do that because I'm a 30-year-old woman. But let's say, for example, Michael in our class, being a 17, 18-year-old boy, would he be able to do a participant observation of the views of 30-year-old women? No, because he is a young man and I am an older woman. So that just wouldn't work at all. He would not be able to do the same research as I did. He could not replicate it. Therefore, it is not reliable. So think of reliability as replication. A good research method should be reliable. It should be that solid and sound that anybody could pick up my research and do it. If you can't, then it's not high in reliability. Now, the V stands for validity. Validity is how true and accurate the data is. So let's say, for example, I'm in this participant observation of young ladies and I'm asking very leading questions. Oh, so you had you had a miscarriage. Let's talk about that and let's find out more information and blah, blah, blah. No, that's going to really skew the results. I'm taking them down the path. Therefore, participant observation might not be the most valid when it comes to getting respondents' answers. However, on the other hand, it could be. So say, for example, I was undercover, I was covert, and they didn't know I was actually researching the ladies. And instead, I was sitting there with a cup of coffee, pretending to be their best friend, listening to their problems. That would be high in validity. So for validity, for reliability, ethical, practical, the perfect, you have to talk about strengths and weaknesses of the research method. Now, the second R stands for representativeness. How representative is your sample of the wider population that you are researching? So let's say, and I'm using this example of motherhood of 30-year-old women, I've literally spoken to my group of friends, and in my group of friends, they're all white, they're all atheist, they're all middle class. That is not good research. It is not representative of every single woman in the world. If I was going to really generalize, worldly views of motherhood. So again, you need to be dissecting how representative is this sample group that you have. Can you make generalizations of the wider population? Then your last one should be about theory. Now, you should be talking about both positivist and interpretivist. So if we look at participant observation, and interpretivist would love it. It would generate qualitative data. I would be able to really become quite ethnographic. I could immerse myself and really get some true insights into people's thoughts and opinions. However, a positivist would say this is extremely weak method. It is not scientific. It's completely unbiased. It is biased. Therefore, my own views of a researcher will impact the data which is generated. So for this essay, I've put for each paragraph, point number 3, number 1, explain that the use of the method can be evaluated in terms of it. So e.g. questionnaires can be evaluated in terms of reliability. So then you'll give all the strengths of how questionnaires are reliable, but then how are they not reliable? Yeah. So you do practical, ethical, reliable, validity, representativeness, and then theory. Yeah. 20 marks, 20. But I've spent about half an hour on this, to be fair. Number 3, give it an advantage. So how is it reliable? And then number 4, give a disadvantage. How is it not reliable? And you have to be able to do that, guys, in the essay to get the grade. Number 4, give a quick conclusion to say whether the method is fit for purpose. So is participant observation fit for understanding the values of motherhood amongst 30-year-old women, yeah, and why? And that will be based on whatever arguments you have put forward. So let's look now at the exemplar. So this is a low answer. Yeah, that would take, what, 10 minutes to write? They've got some good stuff in here. They've referenced, but like the source, but this, however, is the high band sample answer. So you've got a good intro, defining what the method is and focusing it onto the source. And they've put like interviews may be advantageous for the topic of research and poverty because ethically. So they've started off with ethics. And that's fine. You can start off whatever way, but I always use the PERVER acronym because it's just a really easy way to remember it. So you could do it that way, like how I've done it, 7 paragraphs discussing each side. This exemplar hasn't done that. They've just done one big prose with all of the PERV acronym in there, and then they've done their disagree side. You can do it that way. I personally prefer my 7 paragraph strategy. And then they've got the theory at the end. Yeah, cool. Now, then look, this is a little kind of thing I've made for you. So, is it practical, strength, weakness? Is it ethical, strength, weakness? Is it reliable, strength, weakness? And so on. Critical analysis. Okay, section B, understanding inequalities. So this will be question 5. You need to answer both questions. So question 5 will always be describe 2 ways. It could be 2 ways which class impacts life chances, how gender, I don't know, how patriarchy is still prevalent in society. And that you would be expected to therefore link patriarchy to gender. It is purely subject knowledge, and that's why, guys, we did some big lessons on patterns and trends. This is the patterns and trends section of the course, and remember, I would always get kind of testing you at the beginning of the lesson, making sure that you know your stuff. So always do PEEL, point, evidence, evidence, link. Do it again, point, evidence, evidence, link. So you want 4 studies in total based on how class impacts or how gender impacts. Let's have a look at the exemplar. So sample answer, low band, no, we want 2 ways. That one looks okay-ish, but this one, no, rubbish. Here, much better. Lots of statistics. They've got males at disadvantage in terms of educational performance. This one was about, what's the question? Describe 2 ways which males are disadvantaged. So as you can see there, they've got statistics. They've got the school census data. They've got Mackingall and Willis. They've got loads of stuff. I'm saying you do 2 studies per paragraph. This first paragraph, they've got about 4. They've got 5, actually. Showing off, aren't they? And then they've got the second paragraph. So, yeah, it's just knowledge. Okay, the last question, question 6, is another critical analysis, another evaluation. Now, this will be about theory, or it might not be. I have seen a question that was based on patterns and trends, like the actual evidence of how class impacts or how gender impacts. You guys have had practice of doing both, so you should be feeling quite comfortable with this. So I will do a point, core meaning of the question, and then you need 3 big arguments with the appraisal, with the strength, weakness. So you do that 3 times, then you do a big critique, and then you do a conclusion. So I call it 3 peaks, and then a big critique at the end. So point, evidence, evidence, critique it, point, evidence, evidence, critique it, point, evidence, critique it, and then a big critique. So if the question was on, I don't know, functionalist explanations of gender inequality, you would talk about Parsons, you talk about Murdoch, you talk about Davis and Moore. And then your big critique could be actually feminism provides a better understanding. And then you might talk about liberal or radical, whatever you wanted to do. And then your conclusion chooses that whether or not functionalism is the best way to understand it. And that's how you do that one. Lovely. So that's the end of that PowerPoint. I hope that you have found this helpful and that you feel prepared for your exam on Thursday. As I said, this is not a school-wide PPE or anything like that. I've just called it a PPE because I wanted you to know this was an important exam. Just so that I can see how you're getting on, especially because we haven't done I haven't gone through section A with you, and I know you had a bit of different teachers and stuff like that. So please make sure you're revising. Do not sit down and do the test without revision, guys, because you'll fail it and it's just a waste of time. So make sure you're prepared. I've left some revision booklets at the front of the school reception. It is the chapter from this textbook here. I know some of you have already bought it. Well done, fantastic. Oh no, it's not that one. I lied to you. It's not that one. Where is it? I literally have a bookshelf down here. Oh no, I don't have it with me. I've left it in my classroom. Okay, cool. So ignore that. It's white and it says OCR Sociology revision notes. That's why I thought it was this one, because this one's white as well. But I'll put the link again on this little post as well so you can see it. Okay, so have a lovely week. I look forward to marking your work at the end of the week. Cool. See you later. Bye.